Welcome to the Economic Development Council's Vision of Progress. I'm your host, Nathan Sparks, and today we're going to talk about the recent trip that 35 regional leaders took over to Hamburg, Germany to learn more about the opportunities presented by Airbus's decision to put a $600 million manufacturing facility in neighboring Mobile, Alabama. There's been a lot of conversation about Airbus, and one thing that economic developers like to talk about are game changers. Clearly, Airbus is a game changer for our region, and many of us have come to that realization over the past months as we've thought about this opportunity. Many of the same individuals have made the decision to learn as much as we can about Airbus and their supplier decision process. To that end, we recently descended on Hamburg, Germany, with 35 regional leaders going to learn specifically what we need to do as Northwest Floridians and Okaloosa Countyans in particular to position our community for success. We have two of those individuals with us in the studio today, and I'd like to introduce Linda Sumblin, Executive Director of the Workforce Board of Okaloosa Walton Counties, and we have Ron Garriga, Director of Campus Operations with Embry-Riddle. Linda, Ron, thank you for being here, or should I say Guten Tag?
Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to have you in the studio with us, and you know, I've only been on the job for 6 months, as you all know, and I want to start by thanking you both for the partnership that you've shown the Economic Development Council in my time here and well beyond that, well before that. You know, education and workforce are so critical in what we do in positioning our county and our region for success, and you all bring that to bear. And so I just want to start by thanking you for that partnership.
Thank you.
Linda, you obviously in approaching your leadership about the trip, I suspect that you had a conversation about the pros and cons of going over to Hamburg, Germany. Was it difficult to sell your leadership on participating in the trip?
Absolutely not, Nathan. Thank you. And first, let me back up by saying thank you for coordinating the visit, that the investment was tremendous and see great value in that. I'm very fortunate to work for a 29 volunteer board member, and equally as lucky that both of you serve on that board, and greatly appreciate that. Our board sees great value in the trip. The continuing tune is obviously the concern for the workforce needs and meeting the skill sets for any industry that is expanding and growing. We look at our organization as E-cubed. It's got to be a partnership.
Right.
The economic development as the creator of jobs, the workforce development as the job placement, and certainly the education as the training component. So we look at it as a three-legged stool for success.
Absolutely, and you do a phenomenal job, and again, we appreciate what you do, and truly it's a great collaboration. And likewise with you, Ron, you know, again, we appreciate the partnership, and having you involved as Embry-Riddle's representative for our region was tremendous. And what you all bring to bear in terms of the knowledge of the aviation sector, and the fact that that's the specific reason that we were over in Hamburg to talk about our area's ability to accommodate the suppliers to Airbus and other Tier 1 companies. Clearly, having you all here in our region sends a message, and we appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Was it difficult to sell your leadership on being involved?
Nathan, it was not difficult. In fact, they were so pleased for me to receive the invitation to attend the trip that they invited my colleague there in the European division to join me in Hamburg, Germany, where the EDC Council extended him an opportunity to share with not only our group, but the German representatives that were there, basically what Embry-Riddle has to offer them, not only in the States, but in the European satellite campuses as well. So they were very supportive and very pleased, and they want me to be involved in the community. They want me to be assisting Linda Sumblin with workforce development. We are developing strong leadership for those companies.
I agree.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. You know, obviously when you embark on a trip like this, and let's just obviously we don't do something like this every day, and it comes with a lot of careful study and analysis to make sure that, you know, the investment is worthwhile, and that we're hitting the mark with respect to touching the right players on a trip like this, that we're getting the right information we need to bring back to our respective communities and organizations. And I have to say that in terms of the event itself, the International Aerospace Forum, I was very pleased with how it came across. But granted, I'm coming into it from one perspective. I'm coming into it as an economic development person who does this on a daily basis. I'm curious to know what expectations did you all have going in, and were they met with the International Aerospace Forum? Linda, we'll start with you.
Thank you for the question, and I think our expectations were more than met. In looking back at the opportunity, the agenda was very intense, but the speakers and tours that you had arranged, the individuals were very generous with their time and very open with their questions. So the primary goal that I was looking at from the perspective of the job seeker were the skill sets needed. What kind of training opportunities, certainly working very closely with Ron, post-secondary K through 12, as how we prepare our skilled workforce for the jobs that might be needed. But the expectations were exceeded in my perspective.
Wonderful. I appreciate you saying that. Ron, what about you? Did you have expectations going in as to what you thought we might see and do over there, and were those expectations met or exceeded? Or
I didn't really know what to expect.
Okay.
I knew that we would have the opportunity to meet German leaders that would, I assume, that would be very welcoming and informative to us, and they were. I came back with a wealth of knowledge. I came back with a better understanding as to how they did their training for their workforce, which I was very interested in as well. It's great to have a great program that we have in the field of aerospace and aviation, business and management, but what's more important is, are they going to find a job to work in those areas? And we are very fortunate in this area that they do find the jobs. In respect to what I learned there in Germany, man, they had an open door policy. They share with us anything we ask of them.
Right.
And their way of preparing their workforce was very impressive. I think we'll get into that a little further later in our conversation, but an eye-opening experience.
It was indeed for all of us. We kept a very tight and fast-paced schedule while we were in Germany. The first day, we had a total of 9 speakers from a variety of different disciplines and areas of expertise. The second day, obviously, was the tour day. During those 2 days, we learned a lot, and we covered a lot of ground. Did you think that in terms of the event itself, did you appreciate the mix of speakers and tours, and did they complement one another? Did you think that the itinerary was appropriate, or could we have done more? What about the structure? Did you find that was the right structure to garner the type of information that you were interested in hearing?
I think it was well organized, and it was extremely packed and intense, but that maximized the time that we were there to the fullest. Having the speakers come in as well as the tours was a good blend, because we could ask the one-on-one questions, we could get that background, but then to actually see it and touch it and feel it made it a reality as well. So I think the schedule was very well organized and intense, but structured to meet our needs.
Very good. Ron, what about your thoughts?
I couldn't agree with her more. It was fine. Very fast-paced.
Right.
But necessary.
Sure.
We knew when we left that we were going to have 2 busy days, and those days were quite busy. They flowed well. Monday was a great day to be informed from the administration there at the different clusters that we met, and the Hamburg aviation clusters. And then to have that roll right into Tuesday made us better understand some of the things that we saw at Airbus and Lufthansa.
Right.
It was great. It worked out really well.
Great.
Worked out well.
Very good. Well, in thinking about day one, I frankly, I knew who the speakers were.
Right.
And I knew that they represented a wide range of sectors and areas of expertise. But, I didn't fully appreciate the vastness of the knowledge base that we had assembled there. And, you had everybody from, the U.S. Consular Corps to the German Aerospace Industries Association, to the gentleman who represented the small and mid-sized businesses, the gentleman who represented small family-owned businesses. And the thing that it really amplified for me was, the aviation aerospace industry in Hamburg is tremendous in all that it touches. And, obviously we heard 60,000 technical employees in Hamburg. We heard 300 suppliers located in Hamburg. So those numbers certainly give you a sense of that, but hearing all the different support infrastructure that's out there and the different aspects of the sector, it really hit home for me that, this is an ecosystem. It's a cluster. They use the word cluster
A lot.
and clearly they've been very effective at creating that cluster in Hamburg. That first day we had the speaker, the gentleman who was one of the primary architects of the Hamburg aviation cluster. He kicked things off for us, and he talked about all that had gone into creating that culture of collaboration, and all that had been done to ensure that there was a climate of trust and so forth. That one for me was very insightful. Did you all find him as insightful as I did?
I did, and to backtrack and also confirm, the collaboration was phenomenal. I mean, it was obvious that the speakers that came forward all had great respect for each other, and they weren't just meeting themselves for the first time. They
Right.
knew their backgrounds, and I think that's where this community is light years ahead as well too, Nathan, that we all know each other, we all respect each other, and we all know how we can support each other for the success of the community. I was impressed with the director of technology training that spoke to us. The high-level individuals that came before us to speak were very impressive, very informative.
I agree. What about with you, Ron?
Well, absolutely. Collaboration is definitely the success of making anyone interested in our region. We started it with the 35 of us going to Germany. They
Right.
saw a 5-region body of individuals who had the same interest, and that is to help improve our communities. That was impressive to them. You can tell because they were so used to their conglomerate clusters that they related well to the group of us that was there.
Right.
So I think it was a win-win for us to have the numbers and the entire region be a part of that, I'm going to call it the selling unit, to go and just say, here we are, we're interested in providing suppliers to you as needed. And they were very, very receptive to that. I think that by their tone, by their body language, they were just very appreciative of our eagerness to learn more from them. And I think we did. We learned a lot. And I think one of them made a comment that bigger is better. The more you have with a common bond to make things happen, the easier it will be to happen.
Absolutely. And on that point, I'd certainly be remiss if I didn't mention that was really the driver of the 5 counties coming together to do this. Obviously, we could go and attempt to do something like this on our own, and it might work well, but in the grand scheme of things, we know that these companies value relationships, they value collaboration, and let's face it, we have a lot more to offer as a 5-county unified force than we do as any one county trying to go it alone.
Absolutely.
And clearly, they've recognized that in Hamburg because of what we've heard with respect to how they've structured their cluster, how they've created this ecosystem. But I think for them to hear that from us, I think it did resonate for them. Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously this has been a very informative segment, and we're going to take a little bit of a break. Folks, if you'd hang around and join us, we're going to come back in a short minute and talk a little bit more about the Gulf Coast Aerospace Coalition's trip to Hamburg, Germany. In the second segment, we're going to learn a little bit more about some of the takeaways that our guests had during their time in Germany.
The Hoover Dam can hold over 9 trillion gallons of water. How? Its arch construction diverts pressure into its neighboring canyon walls. The same principle applies in business. You must find support from the right partners who can help make you stronger. Choose a partner who is able to support you in every way. Cox Business.
In only 30 minutes a week, you can make a big impact on a child in Okaloosa County. The Okaloosa School District is recruiting mentors at all academic levels throughout the county. Studies show that students who are mentored develop self-confidence, make better grades, and improve their relationships with adults and peers. To learn more about the mentoring program or to sign up, visit okaloosaschools.com and click on the Become a Mentor link. You can make an immediate impact on a child and the community by becoming a mentor today.
Welcome back to the EDC's Vision of Progress. I'm your host, Nathan Sparks, and we've been chatting with Linda Sumblin of the Workforce Board of Okaloosa Walton Counties and Ron Garriga with Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. In the first segment, we've talked about the expectations that our guest had as they embarked on the trip over to Hamburg, Germany with the Gulf Coast Aerospace Coalition. In the second segment, I'd really like to explore a little bit about some of the takeaways that you all had as we learned from our speakers in Germany. Clearly, Germany and Hamburg in particular has become an aerospace center of excellence. There's no doubt about it. We've talked about the structure of their cluster. We've talked about the numbers of companies and all the support mechanisms that exist in Hamburg proper for these businesses to really thrive and grow. Clearly, I think we got a number of good insights as to strategies that allowed them to have the success they've had. But I'd be interested in hearing you all as professionals in your respective arenas, what your thoughts are about the things that you heard that we could bring back perhaps and really localize and regionalize and make our own. Linda, were there things that you heard that to you seem to be strategies that we might explore here?
Absolutely, and a couple that come to mind was obviously the education and the skill sets needed. Very intrigued with their apprenticeship programs and how they set that staging up from K through 12 into the apprenticeship programs. Flight Club, that's something that Ron and I were just talking about earlier today, that's a club geared toward 8-year-old females to get the female youth involved with aviation, and then they enter the male the next 10 months, but the female starts in the club. So that's something that, even beyond the age 8, that we could start here definitely in our K through 12 system. We're very fortunate that Superintendent Jackson is very supportive of career ed. Very fortunate that Patty Benezzi was able to make the trip.
Yes.
So we've already got our heads together with some of the education components that we think we can quickly implement, and then looking at some long-term situations as well too that we took away.
Yeah, I know that the German system of education has gotten a lot of discussion locally here, in fact, and that the Workforce Board hosted a gentleman who came and talked a little bit more about the German educational system and some of the components of that. Could you share with our viewers a little bit about what your exploration of that has revealed?
It will be, and it's an ongoing education, but at the broad brush, Kevin Ham from the Bauer Foundation came and talked to us. Basically, at the 3rd grade level, the youth are set aside by the education leadership as far as their career pathing.
Right.
So they're set into 3 different components. They're set in the manufacturing, the aerospace, the hospitality, and then the general career paths. And then from that point on, their education is revolving around the path that the leadership has selected for them. So it's very intriguing, very young, but very successful. So we are learning more about that to hopefully implement into our education system and move forward with it. Not sure about the 3rd grade, that seems awful young, but it's very successful and been proven to be successful in their programs.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Ron, what about you in reflecting on the presentations and our speakers and all that we learned during our time in Germany? Are there takeaways that you came back with that you think that can either be used by your institution or by our community as we go forward in crafting and going further with a strategy with respect to the aviation sector?
There are, Nathan, and I'm way ahead of you already. We are definitely already jumping on it.
Great.
You mentioned Patty Benezzi being part of our group, being in charge of career and technical with Okaloosa County School District. Currently, Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University worldwide is under contract with Okaloosa County School District through our aviation program at the high school level.
Right.
Well, they're not just going to start in high school. We have to start that pipeline in elementary and middle school. What I brought back from Germany is that, yes, they start that track at, I think, 8 years old with either technical or university. Well, we might not necessarily be ready for that, but we are ready to get them excited about aviation at the elementary level. We are already involved in many of the elementary and middle schools with Embry-Riddle currently, but it did ignite me to want to come back and be a bit more involved with those younger individuals to build that pipeline. I also found out from the Germans that whenever I was paying attention, that it was interesting to hear how they have some of the same issues and problems that we do when it comes to women and aviation and engineering.
Right.
I think they used a percentage of only 5% of their population workforce is in those career fields.
Correct.
It's the same with us, and they're using creative opportunities with the 10-month program that you had mentioned earlier. That sounded very exciting. We will be researching that a bit. Our university president, President Johnson, has challenged us at Embry-Riddle to promote women in aviation. So that is one of our challenges for myself as the leader and for my staff, to be more in tune to the opportunities that we have for young ladies in aerospace and aviation and engineering. So I learned that, yes, they started at 8 years old, but they have some of the same issues that we have right here in the States when it comes to having a young lady involved in that career field. Yeah,
that was interesting. You know, we may have an ocean between us, but obviously some of the same challenges.
Yes.
And it was encouraging to see that in many respects, a lot of the things that they have been focused on, we've been focused on, because obviously they've done quite well. And if we're headed down that same path, I think we're obviously we're onto something. So I agree. Going over as an economic developer, I was interested in gleaning whatever I could regarding how we position ourselves to the German decision maker, and how we position our region and all that we have to offer to those that are making decisions as to where to put supplier facilities in particular.
Sure.
Were there things that struck you all as workforce and educational professionals about things that we should do as a region, as a collaborative partnership, and how we position Northwest Florida to decision makers?
I think we have the ingredients to be successful. When you step back and look at what we learned recently, was that we have certainly the workforce. We're very rich military here locally, with the exiting military, retiring military spouses. But then you take the geographic area. We have the I-10, we have the rail line, and we certainly have the space in the industrial parks. I think we have all the ingredients that I heard they were looking for, and heard the comment about the location not being as important as the quality of the product.
Right. I picked up on that as well. Most companies will almost draw a circle that we'll take suppliers in this radius.
Right.
Well, I didn't get that impression from them. I got the impression from the powers that be that we will take the supplier who can provide the product for supply and demand.
Right.
And if they can get it to them at the time they need it, they're interested in that supplier.
Sure.
The supply chain management and logistic management and those centers that we saw in those manufacturing centers, my goodness. I mean, it was ABC 1, 2, 3. They had it going on with as many planes that they make in a day. They know how to do it best.
Absolutely.
They're the leaders. In our area, Nathan and Linda, you know this as well, our entire region is being known as the hub for aviation. We have that reputation going on now. We have the workforce, we have the education behind them. Many of our workforce, a lot of our workforce in those in higher paying jobs, most of the time already have their bachelor's degree.
Sure.
But we are very fortunate in this area to have numerous universities that offer that next level of education to get their master's and or their doctoral degree. So when you add all those components together, we're very appetizing. And it made me comfortable to know that we were, I think, above the curve. We were setting the bar pretty high in relation to what I think they were looking for. I didn't come back thinking, oh man, we have a ways to go. I came back thinking, wow, we're on top of it. And seeing all those leaders that were there, they have passion for this growth. They want it to happen. They want growth to happen. They want us to prosper in this area. And if it's with Airbus, great. If it's not, then if it's somebody else, that's fine as well. But we want to make things happen in our community, and coming together as a conglomerate like we did, there's no way we can't make it happen.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I second what you said. You know, clearly we are ahead of the curve based on what we heard in Germany. And I think that that's a good message for our audience too, because obviously there was some media that was with us, which obviously very pleased to have them along to report back on a daily basis. They did a phenomenal job of really sharing with the folks back home how the trip was going and the things that we were learning. And you'll remember they reported on Mr. Burndy's with the Aerospace Association. They reported on his comment about the 5 to 7 year timeline for suppliers. Well, in thinking about that, I know that some were a little concerned to hear, well, gosh, 5 to 7 years, that's a long time. Well, it's really not, first and foremost. And secondly, I don't know that that 5 to 7 year timeline applies to all of those suppliers. Mr. Burndy's represents a certain demographic of suppliers, the Tier 2s and the Tier 3s, but I can tell you the Tier 1s who supply Airbus directly and other OEMs directly, they're being told to make decisions soon, and we met with a couple, in fact, a week prior who had already been given mandates to make decisions. But, in terms of the 5 to 7 year time frame, I see that as an opportunity for us to really, obviously the facility in Mobile is still under construction. Well, we're still going through the process of determining how we're positioning ourselves for this sector, and I think it gives us an opportunity to continue to be ahead of the curve and make sure we have what they need when they're ready. So with that in mind, I'm very pleased with what we accomplished. I'm not concerned about the time frame. I think it gives us some time, not much, but it gives us some time to get our collective house in order and to better define this regional process. I'm very confident in Okaloosa County's ability to deliver, but ultimately this regional effort is a relatively new effort for us.
Right.
And I think we really set some good groundwork over there in Germany with our counterparts from around the region.
I agree.
And I found the other counties to be just as receptive. They're ready to go. They're ready to move forward. They are ready to move forward. I enjoyed the fact that we were in a collaborative state of mind on that trip.
Right.
That made me feel very proud to be a part of where I live in the southeastern part of the United States. We have a lot to offer here. You mentioned all the details and the resources that we have. So we can make this happen if we give it time.
And as far as the mobility in our area, individuals don't stop at the county lines to
Right.
find a job or to go to school or to move forward with their career. So I think it's brilliant bringing the Panhandle together for this endeavor.
Well, and I agree wholeheartedly. And again, I can't thank you enough, both of you, and all of those who participated. And it was a wide range of folks. But I think we sent a very strong message to our friends in Germany that we're here to compete. We're here to be a good business partner to them. And I get the sense that that's really what they're looking for. So, well, thank you both for being here
Thank you.
today. It's been a
Thank you for
pleasure
that.
having you here in the
Thank you.
studio.
Our pleasure.
And we look forward to continuing the partnership and continuing to have success as we reach out to aviation companies.
My
We
pleasure.
look forward to it. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Vision of Progress. I'm your host, Nathan Sparks, and we look forward to seeing you next time.